solution is that as many people of good and sound mind as possible need to volunteer to be administrators in elections to do the work. That's what needs to happen.
And do you think that with the setup that they would be able to, they wouldn't just immediately hound those people out, they would be...
Well, there's a lot of that going on.
Discouraged at least from doing it.
There's a lot of that going on, and frankly, it's a worry. And
a good thing about right-wing blowhards is they are blowhards and they won't do any of the hard work.
No,
that stuff is that has to be done to actually organise an election, so we've got that going for us.
Yeah.
I do think that one positive thing that may come out of this in the end is that Trump has revealed just how fragile the entire system is.
Yeah.
He's come in and decimated it in a month. Yeah. So it might then lead to, whenever a sane person gets in, shoring up the strength of their democracy a little bit better, because this has been an absolute farce. We've gone in and just like firing all the black generals because they're DEI hires, because they're black. It's just absolute insanity. But just the way that they've just gone in with a hatchet and just shat all over their constitution. That they're being sued in so many states. Musk is being personally sued and by so many different lawyers and judges. Their people are fighting back.
Yeah.
Just not the elected representatives that you would expect to see front and centre leading the charge. They're all waving themselves with copies of the New York Times and going like, "Oh, you're all being a bit dramatic, are you not?"
This is the problem of this. Is what we started with the normalcy bias of people thinking, this seems bad, but is it time to shout fire? And for the likes of Nancy Pelosi or whatever, she's got so much money that she is insulated.
Yeah.
Did you see her at the fake State of the Union? She looked not long for this world. She actually looked like she'd already passed and had been reanimated for a stint just being fueled by spite alone.
Well, I think that's basically true.
It's also weird as well because it's a culture that maybe even more so actually than the UK and all their media. It's always like, oh, those lying, crooked politicians. They all talk about that in movies, and at no point does any American character go like, maybe we should do something about that. Like it's like a complete default. It's like a complete default of, oh, those damn crooks in Washington, they've been saying repeatedly for many, many decades, but no one's like, we should probably tighten up this whole system, make it a bit better. No, we'll just leave that problem to fucking melt away in the corner into a fucking atomic mess of Trump as he rises out of it and then, oh shit, it's Hitler.
Every problem America's got, there's other countries in the world that have solved that. Just have no interest in actually achieving anything.
Yeah. It's like, what to do, who closing the door and the person shouting the obvious solution.
We've got all these school shootings, but then there's no countries in the world that have ever solved that problem.
What to do, think.
You wonder when.
More guns, give the teachers guns, give the students guns. This is great. No one's ever going to see through this.
It wouldn't have been the fact that even began. Because you're thinking for like a country kind of founded on like revolution, they'd be quite get up and go. But I mean, they're universal. Like that is the stereotype of them being lazy bastards. Is like that's the image is Homer on the couch. That is the American way.
Their first ever president was a 6'4" mentally handicapped, psycho. Basically, George Washington had his false teeth were made up of the teeth of his slaves, cobbled together.
They all lead poisoning back then.
This is Shane.
People got lead poisoning now.
Shane Gillis has a bit about this in one of his stand-ups where he's like, could you imagine being one of the redcoats and just like across the Hudson on a boat out of the mist, George Washington, just the fucking scariest man you've ever seen in your life.
Fucking Nancy.
Slave teeth.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, I don't know when the folk. I don't know. I just, as I say, there's a lot of stuff that they know what all the problems are, but they just don't have any get up and go about solving any of them whatsoever. And it seems to have been that way for like a really long time. Because even like the guns were obviously always not good. But you know, the fact that we're talking like Columbine was in 1999.
Yeah. So that whole, that whole gun shtick is that well, we need the Second Amendment in case I forget an authoritarian government. Ding 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 ding.
You've spent all that money on your fucking bunkering your rifles. Use them. You got
them. Where are they? The NRS like, you found these things?
Yeah, they're stuck there above the sun.
And then the one time a guy did it, when Luigi, they were all, oh, we can't be having that.
Read your source material, guys. This is your origin story.
I don't. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know. We always cycle back to that point of. I think it's just because the country's too big. It's like Russia.
Yeah.
None of them can actually really agree what America is.
It's not one country.
Yeah, they just have to break up. They more like us.
Even England's not one country. Yeah. America's like fucking 900.
You already said it, but just that's the way Europe kind of thinks of itself. Like, yeah, we're kind of united, but we're also very different. So it's like a kind of diverse unity. I think maybe the way to describe it. But it's like that. Whereas with them, they are that, but they want to tell themselves, yeah, but we're one big thing. And it's not our job to fix that problem. Some other guy over there can do it. That's where the other state can do that. And then nothing gets done because no one can really assign responsibility of whose job it is to actually make this thing happen.
Really, the fellowship of the ring, that's what Europe should be. And America's just a bunch of orcs, basically.
Nasty elf man, Elrond. So we've got those beautiful horses. So
that makes Zelensky Frodo.
Kind of, actually. Yeah. Who's Sam then? Don't know. I feel bad. Does he have a buddy? That's made me feel really sad now. I want him to have like a wee Sam type character that just pals around with life.
Maybe Donatusk. Maybe that's his side.
I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you.
Just want to run into the Oval Office like, leave Zelensky alone.
I think what the Americans need is somebody needs to make Independence Day again, the film, but make it again, but good, not like the real.
No, that's what Mars Attacks is.
This hesitate before calling Mars Attacks a good film. No.
I mean, it's bad, but it's good bad.
But yeah, it's
a bad movie with good moments in it.
It's entertaining.
It also kind of falls down now slightly because you're going, oh man, back then, like, Jack Nicholson's the president, that's ridiculous. And now you're like, it would actually be pretty good if Jack was the president. I would definitely trust that guy way more than anyone they've had for like the last 20 years doing the fucking job. It is a movie where no one can quite decide what we're going for with it. The actors don't know this.
It was true. It was like we watched Independence Day, man. I can make that, but for laughs.
Brosno got it. We talked about it. We watched another logo and completely understood the assignment there. But everyone else, Jack's doing his own thing, and then like all the other characters, they're all performing like they're in a different film. No one's got them together to go, this is the tone of what we're trying to do. No one understands it.
Sarah Jessica Parker and Michael J. Fox, those three knew what film they were in.
Yeah, they got it. But everyone else is a fucking mess.
But it is entertaining.
That's what Tommy Jolie is. That's what wins.
The point of this was not to do a deconstruction of the wins and losses of Mars Attacks, like 1996 Mars Attacks. It was enough.
The last time they were truly united, the last time they had a national identity was like Independence Day. We need to bring some of that.
We will not go quietly into the night.
Every single month, once a month at least, for the last 25 years, I've seen somebody on Facebook or Twitter going, this is not who we are. At what point do you go, is it?
Yeah.
Is this who? We all know it's who you are. We've been saying it for years.
The question there is like, well, who did you think? Because that's the worrying bit. I like trolling the Americans on Blue Sky with this point because I'm like, you don't think that we watched Independence Day, we were thinking, that's you. Like, we knew this is like a big, dumb, stupid propaganda film, basically. But I worry now that they actually have watched movies like Air Force One and gone like, yup, Harrison, that's exactly their image of America and what they really sincerely believe they are. And you're going, a lot of these movies that were made, particularly before the Berlin Wall came down, there is truth to a lot of the stuff was kind of propaganda, because they knew these films were getting under the fucking border into Russia, and they wanted basically the Russians to go, holy shit, America looks fucking amazing, I really want to go there. So that's where the whole kind of like, capitalism's fucking amazing, yeah, and like, oh, the women are really fucking hot, yeah, all that's there. But it feels like they now think the way that 80s films portray America is kind of
Yeah, the propaganda worked better on them than it worked on the Russians.
Do you remember when January 6th happened? There was all these commentators in America going, "This is crazy. This is just like a banana republic in South America." It's like, no, that trope is gone. The trope now is you guys. You are the embarrassment that we will use as a metaphor.
When they're saying this is not who we are, what they actually mean is this is not who we want to be. But it is who you are. It may not be who you want to be, but the only way you get to be who you want to be is by doing the work.
That's it. Tie right back to the beginning. It's the magical thinking. It's the rather than going, these are the problems, let's solve them.
It's because
escaping into fantasy.
We're the greatest country in the world.
I think that's why the UK, maybe specifically Scotland, is different because we say that we're shite and we know we are, whereas they just can't deal with the fact that maybe they're not the best.
I actually think that's maybe the fundamental difference between England and Scotland is that there's an awful lot of that bulldog, we fucking did it, and blah, 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 down there, whereas up here it's more like, we lost at the football again, didn't we? Yeah.
No, you'll have it.
We've been humbled by our very nature.
Scotland.
You mean you saw that at the Euros when you saw the Scottish team going out? And it's just a bunch of like already out of breath lads for like Kilmarnock. And then you've got these like 6'4" golden tanned Adonis like German players, and you're just like, oh, we are built different. We need more sun. Like we are not getting what there's something's going on.
It's so good the way it's like, what's your job now, footballers? The one thing a footballer should be able to do is run about for 90 minutes without getting blown up. And those guys were gassed in like 20. they were fucked. And the Germans, whenever they were playing, were all exactly like these guys. They were like, we could play another game, shot another goal. They were ready to keep going. Some of them hadn't even broken a sweat. And our guys were like beetroot red.
That's the feeling. I was like, why are none of them marking any of the German? The reason they're marking any of the players, I was like, they walk by them every time. They've not even been down the right half of the field at all.
What was the game?
And then you were like, it's because they can. Look, they're all standing going.
Yeah.
She's like, I give it out.
That is carrying the hardest. We were their Gimli to their Legolas.
I was so, because I don't follow football, and it had been that long since I'd actually watched a Scotland game, and I was going, like, have they been in the pub? Have they just thought, we're never winning this? So why don't we just go? Because Germany's known for having some decent boozers, and I wonder if they just were like, fuck it, should we just try and do this hungover? But no, as we found out, it's just where we are. But the thing is, no one gets upset about it. It's just like, all right, who gives a fuck, really?
There's been a huge increase in tourism to Scotland from Germany because they were so impressed with the way our fans behaved.
This is where I was going to go with this, but on the flip side of that, like, oh, we're all a bit shite. The other thing we don't do well is take compliments. We're quite kind of adverse to that because we could get quite ego-y about, like, we've actually invented quite a lot of like world-changing shit. Like we kind of know quietly, and we know that we have a kind of responsibility to upkeep that image of like, it's knowing that when we go abroad, we'll go out to the pubs, but we'll get the bin bags out and we'll tidy everything up afterwards. And we sort of have that in us. But if someone comes to you in a bar and is like, oh man, Scotland's great, whatever, you do instinctively go, I don't worry about it, that's a bit shite. You were let that way about it. And if you make fun of us, we kind of let it go as well. Like, there's so many fucking, like, groundskeeper Elena Simpsons is obviously like, you could play that's a racist stereotype.
You're just happy to be included.
But exactly.
Scotland measures.
That is our identity. Just being like, oh, it's all right, don't worry about it. It's a bit of a laugh. There's a few folk are a bit like that, even if maybe there isn't. We sort of say that kind of thing anyway. And I don't know where that kind of derives from, but that is definitely a difference.
Quite a popular sentiment during the Euros that the England fans did not deserve their team and the Scotland team did not deserve their fans, because the inverse was true for the England fans. They went and acted absolute cunts.
Yeah, and that team did really well. They were bitching about every fucking little thing.
Yeah.
No.
And then the team refused taking the medals off, the second place medals after the Kingspan put them. I thought that was terrible sportsmanship.
Yeah.
But it was just like I said to Chris, I was like, it's not because they lost, it's because we're never going to be allowed back in their country, because everybody was fucking raging that they'd lost.
It was really...
We're never going to win.
Aye. I did sort of... I got annoyed by that. I got more annoyed than you, because I just thought, like, imagine that was like, your kid playing five-a-side and he got like the runner-up medal and then just like took it off really angry. Like, you'd have to have a word with him afterwards, like, I know you didn't win, but you can't behave like that kind of thing. But yeah, I was going to say this, I think it's your value is not about being the best. I think that's what it is. It's the idea of like your value when you're in Scotland. It's like, we value things like like cleaning up after yourself, being nice and polite, being humble. Like to us, that makes you the best. And it was in America and England's kind of caught that virus a wee bit. It's like, you're not the best unless you're The Rock. It's like their brain is like, you need to be this like jacked up superstar, mega money, got all the cars. And there's a kind of quite inherent repulsion. So we talk about this all the time with like WWE versus AEW in terms of the heel and babyface alignments are all inverted. So it's like what is morally good in AEW is morally bad in WWE and inverted. So like people that like are MAGA Trumpian sort of characters, if you were to do that in AEW, like Ricochet is kind of portraying that a wee bit at the moment, that's a villainous character. But in the WWE world, they're the good guys, because AEW's got a little bit more of a foot in kind of Japan and Europe, and because Tony Khan owns Fulham, so he's a little bit more kind of worldly. To come back to like relevant stuff like you said about Independence Day, like how to us that played as like I think that was the problem with Mars Attacks. It's like Independence Day already sort of was the comedy because it was so absurd.
And it wasn't meant to be either.
Yeah, but to through their lens, they're like, fucking yes, we're amazing, and how their whole perception of themselves is so skewed versus the rest of the world.
Like, you would teach your kid this. Like, it's not important to be the best. It's important to do your best.
Yeah.
And do your best. Do the best you can and do the best for the people around about you. You would teach that to your toddler.
Yeah.
How has this... I know they're a young country, but they're not that young anymore. There's no excuse. Is this terrible teens? Like, is this what we're going through?
So I get annoyed even by things like the idea of like the prom has been exported across here, but the idea of like a prom king and queen, I'm like, my inherent reaction is like, oh, don't do that.
We don't do that. With the prom is just basically your sixth form party.
Aye, but you know, that's good news. So instinctively we did go, we're not doing that bit though, because that's a bit weird. And like, because it is a bit weird, you know, and that's right from a very young child.
Like putting show kids turning up in a stretched limo.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, blow that up, man.
You see those fucking enormous pink fucking Hummers? Like, that needs to end.
Because even though that you were a kid watching that stuff in all these American movies, you're like, that's really weird. Like, I remember like having all that thought.
And I can remember watching things like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Breakfast Club and things like that. Why have they all got so much money? Why have they all got pass? Why have they all die? What the fuck is going on?
I trimmed this bit out of the J.K. Rowling episode, but I'm sure I remember talking about it because I brought up the TV show Friends, and I've got like quite embarrassing memories of being like an early teenager watching Friends and not laughing once, but trying to get my head like looking at it like a kind of like a scientist, like David Attenborough, going like, what is this?
Like an anthropologist trying to understand.
And if I act like that, will that make me likeable and cool? Because what this looks like is like, these are the worst people I've ever seen in my life, but it's a really popular show. And I was like trying to like work it out. That a lot of my kind of early exposure to American media, not all of it, some of it is, to be fair, they do make quite good movies now and again, but a lot of it, you are kind of looking at it with like a kind of furrowed brow going, that's a very odd way to be. And they don't, because to them it's all just, that's just what we are. They don't see the absurdity and like, okay, again, the small things like the prom. I mean, as you say, like have a stretch of literally.
I mean, everybody always goes on it with regards to France and stuff. Well, how could they possibly have that huge apartment? Well, actually, it's a rent-controlled apartment, and that is mentioned. And a rent-controlled apartment in New York is like the fucking holy land. If you've got one, it gets passed on down families, and that's actually a core part of the plot. What we actually need to ask is, how the fuck could they afford all those fucking lattes? Oh, in that fucking cafe downstairs.
It's just the whole kind of aura of that show was always like, it was like an alien way, but
it was just it was those people, wasn't it? The king and the queen of the fucking prom.
Yeah.
There was also just like, that was just what American sitcoms were at the time. It was all just snark based, and it still is to a certain extent. There are some that...
Yeah, I was using that as a shorthand descriptor for like a genre of that. Like that's because it's just that it's the most successful one of that type of comedy-ish, whatever.
There's a bunch of wee arseholes that thought if you just said a snarky reply back in a certain cadence, that was you'd own the person, you could just walk away. It's like, no, that's not how it works. I'm actually going to kick fuck it, you know? You've just been a wee dick for no reason.
Aye.
It strikes me that quite a lot of the time, you're saying it's a sort of religion of prosperity, this idea of Christian prosperity.
It's like transaction-based morality.
Yeah, precisely.
So these is not new. I've been actually reading because I watched a trailer for The Borgia. Jeremy Irons is in it, and it's about the Borgia family. And so it caught my attention. I started reading up about it, and it was quite interesting. But I was just like, all right, so these religious cunts, you can't possibly actually believe in a god and a hell if you're carrying on the way these guys are carrying on. But they are setting up their family for generations without a wealth that they're accumulating. So they don't buy into it, but they're just absolute. They are just the mafia.
It's just like RFK vaccinating his own kids.
Yeah. Just no beliefs. Hollow fucking people. No beliefs whatsoever. No responsibility to the greater good, to people around about them, to people that they should feel a responsibility for because they're in a position of power over them.
Just in a grift.
Yeah, just grifting.
Vince McMahon, that was one of his lines was Bruce Pritchard talked about on his podcast, and he played that kind of character called Brother Love. He was a send up of these evangelical, guys that are just like send me your money, and you'll get a salvation. And it stemmed from Vince loved listening to evangelicals because he was just like, eventually I'm going to get a wrestling and get into that and make some real money, because that's what his perception of like the dumbest marks in the world, like the way that you can just beg them, you don't even have to do anything. Like that was his whole fascination with it, was the fact you could just get the dumbest people to hand money to you.
These prosperity gospel preachers target the most vulnerable people. So I remember there's this woman who was I can't remember what I saw her on, but she was talking about it and she was like, my mother is so ill, she's dying, she has cancer, and she is no longer going to her appointments. She's given all of her money, her life savings, to this televangelist who said, if you seat your prayer, whatever the fuck it is, but if you seed it, if you give me this seed, it will come back to you tenfold. God will do this for you. And it's like, right, so this is an old woman living on her own, battling cancer, and these are the people that they're preying on. And then the guys flying about in private jets and getting angry at reporters asking them about it. And it's just, how is that not the most obviously evil fuck you've ever seen in your life? Because you see these guys talking and they only have to get 3 words out and you're like, all right, evil.
It's not your grandma's Christianity where she was making jam for like bringing buy sales and stuff like that. It's a completely different thing. Yeah, it's quite alien over here.
I would never go over here.
Yeah.
There's no chance.
I do actually kind of,
fuck it.
to sort of slightly defend religion, because I've realised we're taking a very anti-religious slant on the last few episodes.
Yeah, because it's mental.
Yeah, and it's just fair, and I'm not going to change my mind about that, but I think there is a bit of maybe a misperception that our Christianity is that, and it's really not. It's like a different form over here. It's still like disconnected from reality, but it's not nearly in that, like the stuff they're doing over there with the evangelical money-driven stuff is just a whole... I mean, they talk about it openly, like Christian nationalism, which to me is like a kind of contradiction in terms almost.
It's like, who do you think Christ was? Assuming he was real at all, as opposed to some basically fucking, potentially, best case scenario in my mind is that it was the fucking, year zero equivalent of fucking Gandhi or something like that, who was a local troublemaker and a load of fucking mythology got piled on the back of him. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is he didn't exist at all. There's nobody at all. But what do you think he fucking was? You're like, it's the same fucking... It's like, no, they don't think Jesus is a fucking white guy.
He was magic. Yeah, he was a magic white man in Palestine 2,000 years ago. But it's bizarre. But it's also the extreme cultural differences that we don't see when we're just watching them on the telly, is that like Mormonism would never catch on here in the way that it has. That it's the most... Scientology, again, these are all very specifically American diseases. The same way that you'll find a wee guy,
the way the 9-year-olds with fucking enlarged livers from eating too much sugar are, yeah.
The same kind of person. So I'm from a tiny wee village out in the west of Scotland, and I speak very posh compared to everybody else. Like, I was in school, it was like, you speak pure posh, and I was like, I don't know what to tell you, this is just how I talk. But it's, I feel like, it's not that rough, but it is quite a rough area. There was a wee boy who moved in next door to my auntie, and he came round and tapped the door, and he was like, no, she moved in next to him. It was like down the street from me, and he came and tapped the door, and he went, welcome to the neighbourhood. And she was like, what? And this boy had grown up here. It's not as if he was, and this was years ago. This was 20 years ago, maybe. So it's like the same kind of wee weirdo that will just catch on to that and start speaking in an American accent that will also be like, oh, maybe I'll try this Mormonism. Like, nobody, that guy doesn't have pals that's just like normal. Like, because if your pals are come getting pure into this Mormon thing, you'd be like, all right, what's that about? And they would get 5 sentences in and he'd be like, you're having a fucking laugh, John, what are you on about?
I've just bought an ER-15. Why you did that for? Like,
Because Jesus was.
It's like all these like simple things of just like, I mean, if you spoke to like a parent and it was like, yeah, we're gonna for their daughter's prom, or we're gonna go and like get like a big limo, you'd be like, why? Like, could you not put that money towards like, you know, educating her or something? Like a fucking use. I don't agree with any of that.
I just think like
shit.
Mormonism would just really struggle to catch on here in any way.
Well, it's very American
Go, you
based, to be
hear
fair
it.
to it. I mean, the whole point is supposed to be Joseph Smith is in
I know,
America.
but their whole thing is Mormon missions, where they have to go out to spread the Mormon faith across the world.
It's not really caught on, has it? They've been doing that for quite a while now.
They have been doing it, but I don't. It's never going to catch on. My friends, when I went to uni the first time I was 18, was from Luton, and he was a Mormon. I was in Sunday best every Sunday, go to the Mormon church. We corrupted him within a year. He completely given up his Mormon faith.
Drinking coffee and starting off.
Every time he goes like, could I be a Mormon? He was like, no, your clothes are too revealing. Because I'll have one costume criteria at all times, and it's tits up and out. It's like, yeah, I did not pay for many drinks at uni. I only got drunk once, but it lasted for 4 years, and I didn't spend a lot of money, so that'll tell you. But I was having a flat party, and he said this, so I went into my room and I changed my top into up like a turtleneck looking through. This other guy was like, that's like slapping God in the face. But he came up to Scotland and he was like, I'm a Mormon. We were like, aye. I guess
We'll see about that.
God has got his own planet. Does he? Aye. It's like, okay,
If you, that's probably because you'd all have known probably what Mormons were, but I think that is kind of applicable to kind of all religion. Where like I've got memories of being in primary school, because like you didn't, if you were raised to like going to church, and so like, oh, like I'm a Muslim, you'd be like, what's that? And then you would talk about it. It's like, all right, is that, so I do this church thing with my dad. Is this kind of, and you do kind of figure it out. But as wee kids, regardless of which side of that you're on, you're kind of noticing. It's a bit weird, this, isn't it?
I think monotheism is the really, really dangerous thing. I think I've said this before, but like if you think that there's only one God and it's yours, then everybody else is wrong. But if you're sort of like polytheistic, if you think there's lots of gods, then other people can have gods too, and then you don't know.
Kids were always really funny with the ones that were really committed to it. I thought it was really, really funny, just this idea of being like sort of 8 years old and being like, you know, a devout anything is just so absurd. But like still, the thing there was two kids. There was one kid called Sammy and another kid called Jan, and they'd gotten on quite well, and then I think they realised that Sammy was Muslim and he was a Jew, so they kind of didn't like each other after that, and it was obviously because the parents had gotten into that, so the school sort of like resolved it. I think it was okay in the end. But
how did you do that? Because we could use some queers. Make me come back there.
A lot of it was that, but you wouldn't just go, all right, that's great. You would kind of go, you would pick it apart, but not in a. That was an extreme example because they were kind of committed, but they've been conditioned by the parents. Generally speaking, kids are quite diplomatic inherently. I found with that shit.
That's the fact that the fucking, you know, there's no fucking difference between the Israelis and the Palestinians to fucking look at, particularly to the extent that there was a story the other week about. There was a guy it was in America. It was 2 Israeli tourists got shot by somebody because he thought that they were Palestinian, and he was fucking like, he was a fucking mental hardline pro-Israeli Jew, and the 2 guys that got shot assumed that he was a Palestinian and posted like anti-Arabic racism. It's like, can we go back to looking at who shot who or what was going on here? You couldn't fucking tell the difference. Now pack it in.
I should tell you something.
Yeah. Both of us are terrible.
So stupid. But yeah, no, I'm well into the polytheism. I'm a big fan of the Greek gods. I think we need to bring them back. I did that a little bit. See when the sort of Titanic submersible thing happened, and I was like, oh, Poseidon's not happy with the billionaires. And then they had that other thing with like the yacht, and I was like, oh, Poseidon and Zeus working together in tandem.